follow.
Not all chateaux produce wine and have vineyards, but there are over 300 of these country homes in the Beaujolais region alone. Chateau de la Chaise in Ardennes is known as the Versailles of Beaujolais. I can tell you from experience that many chateau owners don't appreciate you turning up with the excuse of saying, "Oh, can I buy something from your cave?" They'll direct you into a town. But this 17th century, 1600s chateau on 330 acres does welcome visitors at the right times. Their French formal gardens were designed by the ex-king's famous gardener. André de Notre left 140 acres for vines, though. The chateau produces the Brouilly, the Côte de Brouilly and the Fleury vintages. In the 108-metre-long vat room, a historic monument in itself. Chateau de Julien
Where the sun has never shone.
has a huge cellar, a former stronghold of the lords, extending underneath their courtyard. It's the size of 2 football pitches. Chateau de Bellevue in Morgon was once home to a princess, and Chateaubriand and the Lumière brothers. It's a real gem of the region. Include on your chateau tour of Beaujolais.
Like a door that keeps revolving in a half-forgotten dream.
Bacchiarland, Chateau Thivin, Chateau de Maurière, Chateau Saint-Vincent, Chateau de Fleury, and the Domaine de Briant. Chateau de Montmelaz was another of the lords of Beaujeu, his garrison in the Middle Ages. But it had the prestige of having the attention of Viollet-le-Duc, the architect, in the 1800s. Though he himself didn't rename it Sleeping Beauty's Castle. The curves of the landscape disclosing more. Ever-changing vistas are as enigmatic as the wines, and the history of the interaction of the barons like Richemont and Varenade in Glees, a baron that claimed to be the son of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, a French roi who was never to be. Though from that series on television, it's as likely as he was illegitimate as anything else. The stones of Chateau Rochebon in
and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space.
Thiers, the facade from the 1600s, doesn't really show us the pink of the geology, but it does have a tinge, a bit of tannin to it. Chateaux is another chateau of golden
like the circles that you find.
stone. For you Renaissance architecture enthusiasts that like a red or a white gamay, chilled or room temperature. Chateau Chateaux, one of the oldest and 1100s
In the windmills of your mind.
12th century wonder. Its splendour is one of the best preserved in the region. But for somewhere to stay, Chateau de
Keys the jingle in your pocket.
Bagnols is a fully renovated 15th century chateau that you can stay and use as a base for your explorations and experimentations.
With the jangle in your head.
Touring the chateaux of Beaujolais, some of which can be dated back to 977, a century before the French invaded England, Battle of Hastings and all that. The lords of Beaujeu that gave Beaujolais its name had their own micro-world to worry about at the time. And Beaujolais Villages is now an AOC subdivision in itself, the first to use villages to separate. Back then it was the monks of Cluny that played a role in developing the vineyards on the many hillsides which would later be classified as an appellation. The Beaujolais Villages appellation is located in the north part of the vineyard and includes 38 villages, The steep vineyards facing east, southeast, between 200 and 500 metres in altitude, surrounded by the 10 Beaujolais crus of the northern half of the vineyard, where there are as many terroirs as there are villages, as the vineyard's mid-range wines between the AOC Beaujolais and the crus. They can be enjoyed young or after a few years of cellar aging. The wines produced in the southern part of the Beaujolais village's appellation are easy to drink and fruity. Those from the central area are richer and structured, and in the area of the crus, the wines are more robust and round. From diverse terroir, you get multiple wines. The aromatic wines with complexity and structure are what are in short demand, what the connoisseurs are after. Because of the sometimes especially steep slopes, both the vines and the wine growers sometimes get described as heroic. Cultivation is a daily physical feat. The vines have to work harder too. But remember that the Beaujolais Nouveau type makes up 40%. So while some might consider that the Nouveau drags down the rest, it does increase its rarity. Though before you cellar a container load and export it to China, remember Beaujolais produces more wine than the Burgundy wine regions of Chablis, Côte d'Or, Côte de Chalonnaise and Mâconnais put together, which are broadly just the other side of the River Rhone, just the other side of the motorway south to the south of France. North of Lyon, it also borders the Saône and Loire, sort of Burgundy-Rhone region, most generally. The Romans planted the trading route along these rivers. Bruliacus Mont Bruley now was perhaps the most notable. And Romans worked Morgon, or rather their slaves did. With the fall of Rome, it was the Benedictine monks that took over the viticulture. Around 1800, the English described the wines of Saint-Amour and Moulin-à-Vent as being low-priced and best consumed young. Beaujolais Nouveau hit its peak in the 1980s, of course, spurred by creative marketing. The craze for slightly sweet, simple, light-bodied wines was satisfied by producers switching and neglecting the better quality, so Beaujolais got a negative reputation. The surplus meant that the French government introduced mandatory distillation. Now there are many more single vineyards, terroir-driven, complex oak barrel-aged products from producers. Gamay Noir, the grape, is a cross between Pinot Noir and the ancient white variety Gouais from Roman Central Europe. Gamay ripens 2 weeks earlier and is less difficult to cultivate. Its growth has been outlawed as a bad and disloyal plant in favour of elegant Pinot Noir in the long distant past. Edicts pushed Gamay south out of the main Burgundy region, onto that pink granite. But still, there's 18,000 hectares of it, 44,000 acres, 34 miles, 55 kilometres of 8-mile, 14-kilometre wide track. On the west side of the Rhone, an interesting little island where Arpitan language survived until quite recently, which is mainly the language of the Alps. Head for Villefranche-sur-Saône and find out for yourself. Just to make your mouth water, grilled rib of beef, roasted veal with mushrooms, skirt steak with shallots, pork chops in tomato sauce, beef bourguignon, chicken liver loaf, cream of lentil soup, rabbit terrine, grenadine of veal, strawberry and peach soup with black pepper, praline tart and wine poached pears. Beaujolais regional food.
To whom do they belong? In the autumn of goodbyes, when we knew that it was over. the color of his eye. On an ever-spinning reel, as the images unwind.
The very definition of beautiful, nice and pretty.
Like the circles that you find.
Manoeuvring around, travelling through the Beaujolais region
In the windmills of you.
of France, you really quickly start to appreciate its undulating contours and its curvaceous in character and really quite sexy scenery you're travelling through. You are here in the Beaujolais wine-growing region of France, more specifically Moulin-à-Vent. Windmill. There are a couple of notable wine regions other than this in Beaujolais, Chateaux and
Round like a circle in a spiral.
Juliennes. The Beaujolais vineyards are almost unique in that they've remained faithful to hand-picking of the grapes and are one of the few regions in the world to do so. This is partly due to those curvaceous plots of land which are difficult to mechanise, but also down to the method of vinification of the Gamay grape, which is unique to the Beaujolais. Whole bunches.
Like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning.
Whole bunches of grapes are placed into the vats with their stalks, without crushing them. The bunches must be perfect, and this is reflected in the wine that you drink.
On an ever-spinning reel.
The whole bunches vinification method of Beaujolais consists of whole bunches of grapes with their stalks. Those berries remain perfect and unsquished, unsqueezed and virginally intact. Damaged grapes are removed from the bunch as soon as they're picked. The bunches,
Like a snowball down a mountain, or a carnival balloon.
they're picked. The bunches with their stalks are left to macerate for several days. Depending on the position of the grapes in the vat, different things happen. It's still called maceration in the vat. At the top of the vat, the oxygen in the air becomes scarce as a result of the maceration and is naturally replaced by carbon dioxide. Fermentation begins right inside the intact grapes. Intracellular fermentation is the fermentation inside the whole grape.